It's amazing how much doubt there is sometimes. I can't quite comprehend it because, it doesn't look like people think it should look like. But the guy has been clutch. He's won a ton of football games. But you ran for this many yards. We don't care how we win. If we rush for 300 and pass for 1 and we win, great. If we rush for 1 and pass for 300, great. Who cares? We've just continued to win. He's just continued to win. And I think the criticism is, whatever. He just wins.
He's a winner. Well, he needs to win one more to make that official. Just one more, Jalen, and the rest of the Birds. A dominant one yesterday that will go down in the books as we welcome you back into the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Ryan Rolfenstein, Nick Earnshaw, Pete Giordano, Josh Hennig back in the studio producing as we open up the 5 p.m. hour and welcome in Scott Grayson from Fox 29. It's time for Grayson's Grades, and I'm going to be the spoiler here of this movie. It was all A's. This is one, as Scott Grayson described it in his article that's available now on 97.3 ESPN, you put on the fridge. All right, I didn't get a ton of A's in my day, but the ones that I did went up on the fridge. So yesterday's game, you can leave it up there as long as you'd like. It was 55 points. Saquon taking it to the house on the first Eagles offensive play of the game, turning the Washington Commanders over 3-0 in the turnover category, 4-0 I should say. It was awesome. I mean, we can start wherever you want, Scott, but my goodness, so many storylines. I guess I'll start with this. You just heard the soundbite from Nick Sirianni.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with the quarterback, Jalen Hurts. What do you think of what he showed the world yesterday?
I think it's time the narrative starts changing on this guy a little bit. And I know we just saw what happened yesterday, and it's what have you done for me lately is always what's most relevant in everyone's minds. But, Nick's been saying it. All he does is win, and, he's done what he needs to. And I think this year what he needed to do was not turn it over. And as long as he didn't turn it over, this team wins. And so there were times, I think some of us have said, throw the ball. You got a one-on-one, let your guy go get it, give him a chance. But what he didn't do was put the ball out there in harm's way. And I think that's really the biggest thing here. And then the fourth down pass to A.J. Brown, that's a big throw in a 2-point game. And he put it right on the money. There was all the questions about his knee, how healthy was he? He ran 3 touchdowns, and it's not like they were all tush pushes. The one he had to find his way through and get in there. I just think he showed me a lot yesterday, and it was a statement game in many ways for a lot of guys on that team, and especially him. Now, unfortunately, coming into this game, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. It's all to talk about Mahomes, and he will be the lesser quarterback viewed coming into this. If the Eagles can come out of this game and win it, you really wonder where you start putting Jalen Hurts on the hierarchy of rankings of quarterbacks that everybody loves to do coming out of a season and going into the next one. And I think Jalen deserves the opportunity now to be mentioned among the better quarterbacks. Everybody might say, hey, if I were to give you Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts, who you taking? A lot of people are going to take Josh Allen. Well, where is he right now? Where's Joe Burrow right now? Jalen Hurts is in the Super Bowl.
Yep. It's well said. Vic Fangio and Saquon, 2 different acquisitions that were made in the offseason, but obviously 2 massive additions that were made in the offseason. Bigger impact, right? Sort of a silly question, but a thought-provoking one. Yes, you probably lean Saquon, but I said to these guys, are the Eagles here if it's not for Vic Fangio leading this turnaround? My goodness, both of these additions paying off in the biggest way.
Yeah, and I don't know that you can put one over the other. They're both, like you said, they all have their role. At times, and I've ripped him at times, but Howie Roseman, man, what a job. Bringing in Vic, Kellen Moore, also a good addition as well as coordinators. Then you have, as you said, Saquon. Everybody looks at that one, but man, I'll give you Zach Bond. What a pickup. And Vic Fangio is the guy who identified him and told Howie, I want this guy. So you go back to Vic and you identify that. The two rookies that they drafted, I mean, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. This defense changed when DeJean was inserted in the starting lineup. Those two guys, great job. I mean, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, C.J. Gardner-Johnson back in Philly, brought back by Howie. I just think you look at a lot of these pieces that came in. Now, yes, they missed on Devin White, missed on Bryce Huff at this point, but the hits were just incredible, and all of them. I mean, and the difference with Saquon Barkley, look, Miles Sanders, when he was here, found some holes. He racked up some yards, but he couldn't get the home runs. Saquon's ability to hit the home runs and doing it on the first play yesterday. I mean, 18 plays for the Commanders to open the game, and you go, hey, maybe they found something here. They're going to keep the Eagles off the field. And in one play, they answered their 3 points with 7. I mean, it was just incredible. So all around, I just think the additions to this team, not only for what they meant on the field, but behind the scenes as well, is not something you can understate. Look at Hassan Reddick taken out of this locker room. I think you start wondering and looking at, I loved Hassan Reddick as a player, but was there issues behind the scenes? Maybe, I don't know. And I don't want to create something that I don't know is there. That's just saying, you looked at the additions and what they meant in terms of chemistry here. I think it meant a lot for this team in terms of chemistry and what they brought behind the scenes and took it out on the field with them.
Scott, you said in the article, best report card since Grayson Grades started about 10 years ago. That is definitely fridge-worthy. And I got to talk about the offensive line a little bit yesterday. Landon Dickerson does get the start. He gets hurt, and then Cam Jurgens comes in. I saw a clip of Saquon Barkley going up to Cam Jurgens and kind of like motivating him and saying, thank you for doing what you're doing and playing through all this injury. I mean, what does that say about this unit as a team on the offensive side of the ball? It just seems like they're all just on the same page, and it's a stark contrast from what happened last year.
Yeah, I think it's a great example, right, of the unity this team had and the selflessness, right? Landon Dickerson did not want to come out of that game because he did not want to make Cam Jurgens have to play with that back. But Landon's wincing in pain. We watched it play out, right? I mean, he is just so hurt on that sideline that he can't really do it. And Cam, what does Cam do? He grabs his helmet, and he's ready to go out there, and Landon waved him off and went out. I mean, and then ultimately Cam goes out there, and Landon's watching him in the second half. Huge that those two guys have this week before the game. If they had to play next Sunday, honestly, Cam probably would be okay. Landon, I'd really worry about that. But in terms, I mean, it just shows you the selflessness on this team and how much they want to play for the other guy. Cam wanted to help Landon Dickerson out. Landon wanted to help Cam out by staying in the game. Ultimately, it worked out for both guys. But it's just a great example of, how those guys play for each other. And the offensive line in general. I mean, I was worried about that. I was worried about, the dominoes that fall. Landon Dickerson moving from left guard over to center, and then Tyler Steen coming in as well. And what it did, and the tush push especially, those are some big plays that those guys need at key times. But without the usual configuration, they still got it done. And Jalen was able to get it in. But it's a credit to the offensive line and what they were able to do. And that first play of the game we talked about with Saquon, holy cow, I mean, what a hole. And running a play that they hadn't run all year. They had not done a pitch out to Jalen all year, or to Saquon all year. It was a great call, and it totally put the Commanders on their heels. But you're right. I think this offensive line is huge. They are so good, and Saquon obviously loves running behind them.
Scott, when it comes to Howie Roseman, we've mentioned Zach Bond, we've mentioned Mekhi Becton, we talked about it throughout the show. I mean, Howie Roseman, has to get so much credit here for the job he's done of bringing this team back to another Super Bowl and some of the moves he's made. I mean, what kind of company does that put Howie Roseman in at this point with the moves he's generated? Well,
it's to be seen, right? I mean, if they come out and win this Super Bowl, win their second in 7 years, third trip in 7 years, second in 3 years, beat the team. Once again, they're trying to take down the evil empire. I mean, they did it when they beat the Patriots, and now they've got the evil empire that is the Kansas City Chiefs that they're trying to take down. The whole country is going to be rooting for them to do it. I just think Howie Roseman, what he did, how he was able to look, we talked about all the great moves they made. And again, the coordinators, I think you can't overlook. Adding them in that was not Nick's choice firsthand, was to become that CEO coach we talked about. And what does this mean? What will it look like? It looks like it worked. And I think you have to give credit to Jeffrey Lurie, to Howie Roseman, and to Nick for going along with it. But it was the vision that they all kind of had, and then Howie put it forward. And look, one thing I think Howie does, and Zach Vaughn's a perfect example of it, he will listen to what his coordinators say as far as the type of player they're looking for, and he will listen to suggestions on who they might want and then go get them. And I just think that's a great quality for a GM to have. And he's always willing to adapt, which is why I'm optimistic. Maybe the Eagles will sign Zach Vaughn back. He's free agent after this year. I think they need to sign him back. But in the past, they've let guys like TJ Edwards go at that position. They have not prioritized linebacker. Well, maybe in Vic's defense, that needs to be the case. And I'm open and hoping that Howie will adapt in that regard to that role and say, you know what, Vaughn is a guy we need to keep here.
Do you think they would – I'm sorry, I know Pete has a couple for you, but do you think that Howie would do that? Because I said earlier that I would imagine, Scott, that he's going to get a bag of money as far as an offer and have an opportunity to be paid like a top 3 guy. Do you think Howie would do that?
I think it might come down to Zach maybe needing to take a little bit of a hometown discount because I don't think Howie's going to take Zach in the car and drive him right up to the bank window and say, tell me what you want. Here's a blank check, right? I think Vaughn's going to get some high, offers. And the question is, how much does he want to stay in Vic Fangio's defense and play this role? And is there a number that the Eagles could get to and that Vaughn would agree to that works both ways, right? Helps the Eagles with their bottom line. At that position, yes, Howie has never wanted to open up the bank door, teller door and the vault window, whatever you want to go with, and say, hey, here's that bag of money. But at the same token, how much does Vaughn say, this is a career-changing move for me? I love playing here and with Vic Fangio and what he's done for me. And look, the guy just turned 28. He's got a bright future ahead of him. He's still young. I think it's worth exploring. But, they've got some issues that other players are going to have to bring back. And I know that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott, sticking with the defense, it just seems like this is just a complete unit. I mean, I don't want to single anyone out because everyone's making plays. Nolan Smith, Zach Vaughn, Oren Burks, Quinyon Mitchell. These guys are forcing fumbles, and they're recovering fumbles as well. Talk to us about this defense as a whole and how these guys really complement each other, whether it's the Georgia guys with a chip on their shoulder, guys like Jalen Carter, Brandon Graham's the elder statesman. Talk about the defense as a whole this season.
Yeah, what's been impressive to me is the personalities on that defense. The ones we know of, right? Darius Slay, very, very emotional guy, plays with his emotions out there. You can see it. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, same way. Then you got a Reed Blankenship who just runs around and wants to put his head in everywhere. We talked about Vaughn. You add in a Quinyon Mitchell, quiet guy. When he gets out on the field, he explodes into a different personality like the Hulk, And then you take what happened behind the scenes. Darius Slay going to the Eagles after they drafted Mitchell and saying, I want his locker next to mine. I want to mentor that guy. And then he kind of did the same thing a little bit with Cooper DeJean. Reed Blankenship mentoring Cooper DeJean. It's not nothing what the veterans have done for the younger guys that makes them now not even play the game like they're rookies anymore. You look at a Jalen Carter who hit the wall last year and wasn't able to really be effective in the second half of the season. And guy's a game record. This late in the season, they played 20 games, and he's still a huge factor. Nolan Smith, when Brandon Graham went out, took with both hands the extra snaps and said, I want them, and I'm going to make them work. Milton Williams is an unsung hero. But the way these guys play together and for each other, to me, is huge. And you look at how the Eagles lost the first game. I came on here with you guys, with Mike, and we did the grades, and I gave an F to C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I mean, taking himself out of that game and getting ejected with the unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. And then he came out, and what did he do for a guy who loves to run his mouth and talk and plays like that? He came out and said, I got to do better. That's on me. I can't get myself taken out of the game. I learned from that. That was huge for me to say, look, man, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes entirely, but these guys are all together, and they're playing for the greater good. And I think that is huge, and I think it's a big reason why they are the top-ranked defense in the league. And I can't wait to see how they try to handle the Chiefs and Mahomes and Kelsey and company.
Back over to the offense. 17 catches, 226 yards, and a touchdown for Smitty, A.J. Brown, and Dallas Goedert. Why was that? Was it the play calling? Was it Jalen Hurts maybe being forced to be a pocket passer with the injury? What was the impetus for getting those guys back involved again?
I don't think it was the injury, because I think Jalen showed us that the knee was okay. I think it was more a case of the Commanders pretty much saying, we're not going to let Saquon beat us, although he kind of did. And when they would load up the box and they got the one-on-one match, look, I loved watching A.J. Brown just abuse Lattimore all season long, and it happened again yesterday. The way that he was able to win those battles, and I think the Eagles saw something in that whenever they had a shot there, they even tried it with Devontae Smith against him. And then as it would open up things underneath for Dallas Goedert, Goddard was then able to take some catches and put yards. The Eagles just took what the Commanders gave them, I think was more than anything else what it was. And it just showed that they're not afraid to put the ball in Jalen's hands and let him throw it to those guys when they feel they need to. But Saquon Barkley still effective. 2 of his first 3 carries, touchdowns. Just 15 carries. It felt like he rushed for 200 yards. He had 118. But he was all over the place making big plays. Even Will Shipley getting in the act late in the game. But, yeah, I think it wasn't so much the injury. I think it was the Eagles taking what the Commanders gave them, and where they liked those matchups, they went with it and said, okay, fine, we'll get it to God. We'll get it to Devontae Smith, and we'll get it to A.J. Brown. And it was nice to see.
How much of it, Scott, do you think it's all season long just been Jalen Hurts controlling everything? I mean, the passing game, the running game, knowing when to throw it, knowing when to audible at the line and regroup and change things up. How much is it just Jalen all season long? I mean, skeptics and the criticism of the passing game, what have you, but how much has it been Jalen just controlling it all, controlling the narrative?
Yeah, there were times yesterday, and I've seen it put out there, I've seen some guys that are very well respected, like Brian Baldinger highlighting things where you can see the plays and he points out where Jalen changes it, gets them into a good look and a favorable situation, and it explodes for a big play. Some of it I think sometimes too, and we forgot this, is that Jalen Hurts has had to have different offensive coordinators every year, and it's probably going to happen again. So there has to be a level of understanding the offense that through a few games it takes time for him to get there where he can see and make those calls that he needs to make. So I think that's part of it. He is obviously getting more and more comfortable and more flexible and more understanding of the offense to have those calls. I still think early in the game, Kellen Moore limits what he can change, because in the chess game that they play, that gives him the information early on. Okay, we need to run this play because I got to see what they do here to tell me how I want to do it later in the game. But once they get out of that early period of the game, I think Jalen has the ability to check in and out of things as he sees fit. And I think some ways that's a lost art that we don't give him credit for, that we always say, look what Mahomes is doing. Look what Josh Allen's doing. Look what Joe Burrow's doing. And, Jalen Hurts yesterday deserves to get the praise of checking into the right plays that allowed them to score some big plays.
Scott Grayson, Fox 29, Philadelphia, at S. Grayson, Fox 29 on X. Man, excellent stuff, Scott. And for listeners out there, make sure you check out Grayson's grades, Scott's article up on the website, 973ESPN.com. So before we let you run, we're going to have 2 weeks talking about this, and I know you're going to get asked about your thoughts and a prediction a lot. Just removed from this NFC Championship win, just quickly, your thoughts today. Are you confident in the Eagles getting this win?
I think we're going to be in for another good game. I really do. But the difference this time around, to me, is this defense. I think it's a big difference. The way that they were able to handle a Jaden Daniels showed me a lot with his mobility and how they had – look, Oren Burks to me showed something. I thought they were going to miss Nakobe Dean a lot yesterday with trying to handle Jaden Daniels' mobility. Mahomes is a mobile quarterback, and if you get out of a lane, he will make you pay with his feet. He doesn't want to. He wants to beat you with his arm. But I really like the way the Eagles – Quinyon Mitchell out there has just been a stud defending guys. Did it again yesterday against McLaurin. So I like this matchup, Ryan. I think it's going to be a good game. And I really do right now. And of course, maybe I'll change my mind as we get closer. I was shocked that the Eagles are the underdog. I thought they might be favored.
Wow.
And I think all signs point to me that this will be a good game, a close game, a good, entertaining Super Bowl. But I think the Eagles can win it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. Excellent stuff as always, Scott. We appreciate your time breaking it down today on an excellent Eagles Victory Monday. We appreciate you again, man. We'll talk soon, all right?
All right, you guys take care.